There we go. Okay, I believe we're up on the live stream. And we should be good in the room here. If this actually works, I'll be like super impressed. Thank you everyone for joining us in person and anyone who may or may not be online to the 2020 spring kickoff meeting for Hudson Youth Lacrosse. On. Son of a...
The first slide.
I think I know what's going on. I have to click on it. Alright. Jenna, we're going to go over some stuff and some things and we'll talk about it. You'll see as we go through it. First of all, what is HYLAX? The most important thing is we're a 501(c) nonprofit organization. We're all volunteer-run, volunteer-led, volunteer-run organization. None of us are paid. None of us are making any money on this. We just do this because we love to support youth lacrosse here in Hudson. So please don't yell at us. We've got several new members on the board this year. I'm Richie Lipton. This is my second year as president, my fourth year on the board. Courtney, go ahead and introduce yourself.
I'm Courtney Klosnock. I'm the treasurer. This is my third year on the board. Prior to that, I spent 4 years coaching for the program. I have 2 sons that play.
Rochelle?
Hi, I'm Rochelle Salem. This is my first year on the board, and I'm in charge of admin, web, and communication. So if you need anything, feel free to reach out anytime. And I have one daughter in the program, Charlotte Salem, in 3rd grade. Well, 4th grade, sorry.
Dan?
Dan Jenkins, first year on the board. I have responsibility for scheduling.
Pittsburgh. Heidi?
I'll yell back.
I'm Heidi Grady. It's my second year on the board. First year as girls director, so excited to take on this new role. And I have a son who's in 7th grade who plays, and a daughter who's in 5th grade who also plays.
Chris?
Chris Licker, boys director, first year on the board, 3rd year of the program, 2 boys that play, and then a daughter, a couple years on the playing. So excited to be here.
And Brian?
Brian Churchwell, first year on the board in operations, and I have a 7th grade daughter that plays, a 6th grade son that plays, and a 1st grade daughter that plays.
Awesome. So I'd like to start this meeting, just go over our mission, right? Reiterate our mission. As a board, we like to execute all our decisions in accordance with our mission. So mission's very important, and any decisions we go through and navigate throughout the year and the postseason all kind of line up to what our mission is. First and foremost, we want to honor the game and emphasize sportsmanship, right? We want to be good sportsmen on the field, sportsmanship on the field. And be polite people. Emphasize life lessons through the game of lacrosse, right? Like, so dealing with the disappointment of a loss, dealing with the disappointment of not making the best team, maybe, how to come back from when teammates are being rude, or how to be nice to your teammates after you're frustrated with them. All these are common life lessons we deal with every single season that we hope can help raise young athletes to be nice individuals. Teach players the game of lacrosse, obviously. That's kind of why we're here. And promote and grow lacrosse in Hudson. If we're able to help promote and grow lacrosse in the broader Northeast Ohio region and beyond, that's great, but our primary focus is to grow lacrosse here in Hudson. And finally, of course, carry ourselves with dignity, integrity, and grace. Yeah, I added that slide back. So, boys and girls programs. Little overview of the different levels of play every year. Couple changes from last year. The biggest one is with 1st and 2nd grade boys. So this year we will not be requiring equipment. We will we'll stagger the practices so that on Wednesdays it'll be no equipment and we'll use sticks and soft lacrosse balls. And then on Sundays, it'll be like a rec scrimmage type thing where we'll have one 3x3 or 4x4 game going without any pads, and then anyone who has pads will be in another scrimmage that's also 3v3 or 4v4. The goal there is to try to get lacrosse sticks in as many hands as possible and lower the barrier of entry. I have a first grade son, and I know it's signing up for things, it's like a battle. Like 1 week he could love it, the next week he could not want to do it anymore. And I don't have a lot of energy to fight those fights personally. And it's a lot easier to stomach if I haven't just shelled out $150, $200 for equipment and helmet and pads and gloves and all this stuff. So we're really trying to increase exposure to the sport, make it easy to increase exposure to the sport, so people can try it out with as low a commitment as possible.
Do you want to talk about sticks?
Yes, sticks. So we also got a really good deal on some of the Warrior lacrosse sticks with like the built-in pocket that make it really easy to start off for this age group. So for the girls' side, we have 19 of them. We would have had 20 if they had 20 available, but we bought every single one they had. And for the boys, we have 20 of them. And so the first 19 and 20 registrants on boys and girls respectively.
It's new to the program and need a stick. So if
Correct.
you've already played, we definitely ask that you if you already have a stick, don't take one, because we're trying to get these new sticks to those players who are brand new to the sport. So that's what the form will say. It's just for the 1-2s that you'll see this question asked when you get to the form section of the registration already. So
Thank you.
That is what it's all
Clarification.
for.
Yep. 3rd and 4th grade, small ball format. We will take all our teams, we'll break into, all the other participants will break into what we'll try to make even teams. And the format for the games will be 7v7. We are playing teams in other cities, and we do have a couple weekend tournaments, and it's a lot of fun. Boys and girls 5th and 6th grade starts to add in a little more competition. We do start to introduce a select team at this age level. So we'll go through evaluation process. We'll have more details about that in those evaluation practices. But we separate into an A team and then 1 or 2 B teams, depending on how many registrations there are, how many players there are. And form teams that way. And then again, we're playing teams from other cities who do the same thing, and we try to match up so we're evenly strength, right? We don't want to play anyone and blow them out of the water, and nor do we want to be overmatched ourselves. So we try to make the teams formed in that way, especially the B teams. If there are 2 of them, we try to make them even strength, so we're not overpowering and just having every game as a cakewalk.
Richie, can I emphasize
Please do.
in the 5-6, and Chris, I believe you feel the same way, for the evaluations, last year or years past, the players had come, and usually the evaluations start that first day. When we have the outside evaluators, it will definitely be after some of the, you'll see on our schedule, some of the practice times that we'll have starting in February. But when we do have, the evaluations piece really is an option. So if a brand new player, even in 6th grade, doesn't feel like, at least for the girls, because we don't do the 7th and 8th grade, doesn't feel like they want to try out or be considered for the competitive team, that's okay. So we're just making that an option that if, I've never played this before, I'm not comfortable trying lacrosse in front of outside evaluators, which we will have, that's fine. It's, really what here, we want to have everyone to have fun and really enjoy the game. So if, we're just making that, just to put that in the back of your mind. If your child does not want to try out or be considered for the select team, that's A-okay. Definitely not looked down upon. We'll just put them on the developmental team.
So another thing to point out, which is really important for any returning players, especially in the 5th and 6th grade, is you'll see where it says season starts February 16th. We are no longer having winter clinics, okay? So what we're saying is our participation rate at this age group in winter clinics was so high that we kind of made the decision to bundle this all together as a preseason, all right? So you were coming anyway to winter clinics. Why don't we just use, as Heidi said, that time to practice and learn each other, and get to know each other before, hello, show up day one, oh, you're gonna try out. So while the season starts February 16th, we absolutely understand that some of you and some of your kids are still in winter sports. It's okay. It's okay. That's fine. Don't worry about it. Come March, when we need to have you for evaluations, we'll tell you what days you need to show up if you want to be considered for those select teams. Does that make sense?
Okay, so 7th and 8th grade, again, so season starts February 23rd. And this is when we're starting to introduce more strategy, not just the passing and catching stick skills, basic skills, but we're building strategy on top of that even more. There are more competitive regional interscholastic games. Again, expected to have a select team and 2 evenly skilled B teams. Just like 5th and 6th grade, right? Everyone's getting playing time, but playing time is earned, right? We used to say even playing time, but it's really hard as a coach to sit there with a stopwatch and manage a game while trying to make sure everything's even. On the B teams, for sure, we try to get everyone through evenly, but we don't make a guarantee of even playing time, right? And especially at the select teams, playing time is absolutely earned, right? And people who are able to execute more on the field will likely get more playing time. It is more competitive in nature.
I think that, just to reiterate that, it also goes to, this is, once we get to our troop, is a 6-week season. So we do expect lacrosse to be your priorities, your kids' priority sport. Most, a lot of kids are multi-sport kids, but we would expect, especially those on the select teams, that this is the priority. Not missing games due to other sports, and that's all that's what we really ask, because they are taking they are filling a space that someone may really wanted to do and have dedicated their season to that. So just think about that again as we go into the 5, 6, 7, 8th grade levels. That this is a 6-week season. It is fast. It is furious. There's a lot of practice time. There's a ton of games, boys and girls. As Dan's done a job, but it is this should be their priority once the season truly kicks off.
Yep. Especially at the 7th, 8th grade level, and we'll see a practice schedule in a couple slides. I wasn't going to go into the evaluation process very much, but one of the things we haven't emphasized a lot in previous seasons, but we've sort of lived by is, when separating out the select team at the 5th and 6th grade levels and at the 7th and 8th grade levels, typically it's going to be made up of mostly all the higher class, right? The 6th graders and the 8th graders. For a 7th grader to make the 8th grade team, I'm not going to say it doesn't happen. I think for the past 3 or 4 years, there's been 1 or 2 on that team every year. But it's not just like the 7th grader is better than 1 or 2 players, 1 or 2 of the 8th graders. They're better than, based on the evaluations, about half of them, or about half of them at a specific position or based on need. For example, goalie or LSM or a lefty attackman, something like that. So we'll go into those details a little bit more when we do the evaluation practices, but do also want to make sure we are communicating that and able to answer any questions that come up from that.
Real quick thing, Richard, go back. It starts the 23rd, 5th, 6th starts the week before. Right? We can't start 7th and 8th grade any earlier than the 23rd. So we're not taking anything away from our 7th and 8th grade players, it's just we are dictated by OHSA of when we can start or not. So just heads up on that. Bring them on the 16th.
And to be technical, we choose to play by the OHSAA rules as part of the Midwest, or not the Midwest, the OMSLA middle school state championship tournament that we attend. We agree to play by OHSAA rules. Even though we're a club and we're not technically sworn to those rules, we choose to abide by that so we can participate in the tournament.
No, so there are no asterisks when we win.
Exactly.
There you go.
Beginners are welcome at all levels, right? We've had successful, multi-sport athletes try out lacrosse in 6th, 7th, 8th grade and be successful at it and carry on. So I think a lot of people, it's very common for kids to think that, all their friends started in 3rd grade or whatever, so they're too far behind. But that's not true. We encourage anyone who's interested to try out. Might take a little extra work, but it's fun. All right, so practice schedule. This is our planned practice schedule, okay? So this is not written in stone. It's gonna change, I promise you. I would love if we had fall weather in Hudson as opposed to spring weather in Hudson. My son played Hudson Hawks for the first time this past year, and it was like clockwork. Practice was on Wednesday and Saturday every week, and it was awesome. It was predictable, and the fields were dry, and it was fantastic. We don't have that luxury. Our fields are swamps in spring. There we go. So we do the best we can, and times will absolutely change. I'd love to make this as consistent as possible every day, every week, but the reality is we have to be flexible with what we have. So this is our plan going in, and we will map these out. We're in the process of figuring out with HCER what fields we will have access to amid all the construction. So our next step is once we are told from HCER which fields we have access to, we'll map these times to specific fields. Once we know how many registrations we have, then we know how many teams we have, and then we can split it out and put this maze together, which is why it's super important to register before the deadline.
February 1st.
It's been open since December 1st, so yes, you can go home and register until February 1st.
But those are some of the things that go into the puzzle that is figuring out practice times for all the different teams.
Hey, Richie.
Yes.
Is the intent on that schedule to start that, like Monday through Friday program from the start date of the new start?
After the week after spring break,
Okay.
with an asterisk, right? Like,
Oh, yeah, with the time.
I would be shocked if we have access to grass fields the week after spring break. It's been several years since that's happened.
Like, for example, the February 16th start date, like the
There are indoor schedules.
Indoor schedule, so essentially it's replicating the winter clinics that we used to do.
Oh, okay.
We're just not calling that preseason.
Okay. So it's not going to be Monday through Friday at that
Yeah.
point. Just
Correct. That's a great question and a great
Yeah,
point.
very good
Yeah.
question.
Yeah, that's a planned outside schedule.
And we'll put out that indoor schedule as soon as we have those teams formed. Right? As soon as we know how many players we have and what teams are which, we'll be able to put that schedule out.
And just, again, the 3rd, 4th grade, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th grade will not start until at least after spring break. So I think the 3rd, 4th grade starts sometime that very first week, yeah, and then.
I think that slide's coming up too,
Yeah.
right?
Okay. Oh, yeah, and then 1, 2s will start the week after.
We just pretty much talked to this, but why do practices change? Ohio weather, field availability from HCER. It's not our decision. It's out of our control. We are at the mercy of HCER, who are a great partner. I don't want to try to sound like I'm blaming them for closed fields. Like, they take care of all the fields and the maintenance, and it's awesome. But yes, we have to be cognizant of swampland in spring in Hudson. And game schedule changes from other programs sometimes. Sometimes we get late cancellations from other programs. That's unfortunate and not ideal. We do the best we can. We take advantage of parking lots and tennis courts and whatever we can, really. I am also a coach at the high school level, and I am happy to share turf time whenever I can. But that's not always easy either.
Richie?
Yes.
Concerning HCER, one of the troubles that we've run into, right, is that they don't release fields until like 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So for any of the new parents that don't know that, the board and HYLAX tries to get the message out as quickly as possible, but oftentimes the information is not provided until late in the afternoon. Has anything changed?
Nope.
Got it.
That is a former board member, Kevin Valcourt. Thank you. That is a perfect point to make.
Usually the message comes out late because it's received late.
Yeah.
by HYLAX.
Yep. Not because we just like messing with people's schedules. All right, tournaments. So there's 2 slides of this. The planned tournaments we have this year. Some of the dates have changed a little bit. North Coast is split into 2 different weeks. So there's another North Coast on the next slide as well. But most of these are the same we've done every year on this slide. The next slide will get to something a little different. And that's we are sending more teams up to Cranbrook as opposed to the Ohio Cup in Columbus. You know, the Ohio Cup Columbus tournament for 5th and 6th grade boys, and I think girls too, was varying talent levels, and we seemed to be right in the middle. If we were in the B bracket, we would roll over all the teams, and if we were in the A bracket, we'd be going against communities who pooled like 3 high schools worth of kids together to form a super team, and we didn't fare that well against them. Our 7th and 8th grade select team has gone up to the Cranbrook tournament in the past, and I believe we've had girls teams go there in the past as well.
I think the girls, it's been several years.
Yeah. It's an awesome facility, amazing campus, and a great run tournament. So
It's Detroit. Everybody doesn't know where Cranbrook is.
north of Detroit. I mean, we're way north of 8 miles. It's 17, actually 18 miles.
That's interesting.
It is, long like 18 miles. That's my hood.
We're going to release that Pulitzer
And the head coach at Cranbrook happens to be a WRA graduate too, for fun fact.
That's a Monday and Tuesday?
The dates are
It
probably-
should be a Saturday and Sunday.
Okay.
We're not always good at dates.
And it's only one day, so the boys will play on one day, the girls will play on.
The 5-6 girls are on Saturday, the 30th.
The boys, 7, 8 boys are on Sunday, I'm not sure which 5, 6.
I think the 5-6 are on, the boys are also on the.
We will change that.
Yes, it'll be.
Good catch, thank you.
And it
It
is
was
also
probably not updated
I'm
from
not
last week.
thinking, I just have the schedule.
30th and 31st.
And school has let out.
Before Memorial Day.
Right, so just everyone.
This is a week after.
School is out.
Why are they on?
What's that? Oh, yeah, school is out then. That is a travel tournament once school is out.
That was just for our select teams.
Yeah.
So it's not all 5, 6, it's not all 7, 8. It's the Vikings, Eagles, and the girls.
There we go.
Good catch, thank you.
Also, there's a fee.
Also what?
There's an additional fee for that tournament. All the other tournaments are paid with your registration fees. That one, there will be a small fee, and we'll let you know once we get that figured out.
Yep.
It's just a lot more expensive to go there.
And it's only select teams. And so we don't know who's on the select team when registration opens in fall, so we don't want to make people on the B teams have the same registration costs as people who are going to the tournament. Okay, good, moving on. Equipment. It's not as bad as hockey, but there's a lot. So I forgot, usually in the very first slide, the president in the past has always asked, how many new players or new parents to lacrosse do we have? Okay, so we do have a couple, very good. Okay, so like I mentioned earlier, this is girls, okay, I'll get to the boys in a second. For girls, there are goggles. There's a girl stick that is different than a boy's stick. It's very important. They are different style sticks with different measurements and requirements. Mouth guard, there are gloves that are different than the boys' gloves as well. There's headgear that we'll have on an upcoming slide, and then cleats, of course. This year we are giving out a practice penny to every player that registers. And the reversible game jerseys and skirts will be given out, but those are collected at the end of the season, just like last year. And also, as we mentioned earlier, the Warp Junior stick for first-time players will be given out, and there's a limited supply. Important note, those sticks are not legal for 3rd and 4th grade play, but they are, they're marketed towards girls at the U8 level to help learn the game more easily. This is the headgear we mentioned earlier. It's not a requirement, but it is available. It's good to know about, and everyone can make that decision if that's something they're interested in. I think there is pretty good adoption on most of the girls' teams I've seen in Hudson. With regard to boys, this big change this year that all this other equipment is optional, of course, for the first and second grade level, as I mentioned earlier. Same thing with the Warp Junior Stick. Practice pennies, again, will be given out to all players, not just first and second grade, but all players that register. Reversible game jerseys for 3rd through 8th grade will be collected at the end of the season. And then the boys' equipment that must be provided by families are helmet, gloves, shoulder pads, elbow pads, a boy's stick, mouth guard, athletic supporter, and cleats. Rib pads are optional. Frankly, I don't know how many youth coaches probably know how many, not many players use them. Yeah. For box lacrosse, absolutely. For field lacrosse, not very common. At the high school level, I don't think we have any players that use it.
Tough guys. Yeah.
Where to get it? So some online retailers are really good. Lacrosse Monkey, HYLAX.com, Sports Stop, Universal Lacrosse. You know, there's a plethora. It's tough if you don't know the equipment already, though. So you might want to go in person. Dick's Sporting Goods. The one in Aurora has a pretty decent supply. The one in Fairmont, I don't think is as good as the one in Aurora, but they do still have a section. One in Westlake, I think, is pretty good, but that's really far. Step In Sports in Chagrin Falls, owned by the same person who used to own All-Star Sports, thank you, that was in Acme Plaza. So they have a real good selection. Highly recommend that. And then Play It Again up in Twinsburg's an option as well. I do not recommend just going in to Play It Again and getting a really old beat-up stick. It's not going to perform very well, and it's going to be frustrating for a new player to try to get the hang of. So, just my 2 cents. Spiritware, we're going to offer Spiritware through RDP again. That store will open on February 1st. Am I lying, or is that true?
No,
Okay, sweet.
it'll open February 1st and it will close March 6th.
Awesome, fantastic. And this is a source of fundraising for HYLAX. We don't add a lot to each item, but we add a little bit to help our program out. Want to make sure we emphasize this for grades 3 through 8. Uniforms will be collected at the end of the season. So please make sure you keep that in mind. You can purchase them, of course, if you want to. If you want to keep them and purchase them, that's perfectly fine as well. But redistributing uniforms every year has saved us a lot of money in terms of annual costs. And now I'm going to pass it over to Courtney, as I promised I would.
Richie, on that last slide, did you want to make a note of that date? I don't know if you didn't it's on there. Saturday the 4th.
Oh, yeah.
Is that 10 to, what do we do?
10 to 12.
10 to 12. So on Saturday, March 14th, we will be doing uniform distribution. This is earlier than in the past. The past couple of years we've done it, there we go. We've done it right after spring break. This year we're doing it earlier because we do have games 4th and 5th of April, correct?
Yes.
So just to avoid chaos and confusion, we'll have the uniforms, we'll have the space, so we figured just do them a little earlier.
High school commons.
It'll be in the high school commons again, and there will be practices that day at NC Soccer. We've got the field between like 12 and 6. So hopefully, at least for some people that are on their way, the time will work out well. I think I hit all the beats there.
Okay, registration. Registration is open. Please register sooner rather than later. February 1st, especially for 5th through 8th, that's the deadline. We're starting February 16th. So in order for us to have any kind of idea in terms of number of teams, number of coaches, number of games to schedule, and also even more importantly, the tournaments you guys love to go to, we need to know how many people are playing. For first and second grade boys and girls, and third and fourth grade boys and girls, registration does stay open until right before we leave for spring break. So pass the word along to anyone that's not here. This is new, this is earlier, we are starting the season earlier. So have friends, tell them, spread the word. February 1st, please register. Okay? Any questions, let me know. If you know of anybody that needs a scholarship, they can contact me confidentially. Those are available. Please share that with as well.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing that slide. I think we used to have a slide about that. Scholarships are available. Contact Courtney. Her contact information is on our website. It's 100% confidential, and that's that. It is super important, especially, when we're trying, so Dan's got a whole puzzle map of what the schedule will look out with what we think we'll have in terms of registration numbers. But if it's on that border, which we've kind of been at the last few years, especially at 7-8 boys, whether there's going to be one B team or two B teams, it can get really tricky, and there's a lot of things that need to happen and a lot of dominoes that need to fall based on those registration numbers. So please don't wait. And here are the dates. Excuse me. So everything we basically just communicated, but here are the dates for you to look at and see. This will be emailed out to, or available on our website, and I think it automatically emails out if we add a news item and distribute it. But I'll just email it out manually too. Okay, I think that's all the cameras I see taking pictures, so I will move on. The specialty clinic. So in place of the previous winter clinics, we are going to use some of that indoor time to run some specialty clinics. We ran some of these in the fall, and feedback was really good. People really seem to enjoy them, so we'll run more of them. It'll be February 9th and 16th. There will be boys and girls shooting and dodging. We will be doing free goalie and face-off clinics. This will be for Hudson only. We would love to encourage more people to get involved in trying out goalie and facing off. Even if they don't think it might be the thing they want to do forever, hey, come try it out. And it is small group training, so there are limited spots. And it'll be a combination of some of our coaches, Dan included, probably myself, and then we'll have some high school coaches, and then on the girls' side.
We'll have some, right now, high school coaches as well as some high school players helping as well.
This will be up on the website for you to be able to register starting Saturday. So you guys are getting first dibs on this information because you were here.
So is that primarily offense, not defense?
I believe there is a defensive clinic
Defensive clinic first.
for boys, correct?
Boys right now.
Right. We're still working through that detail. We're trying to figure out getting coaches.
And that defense clinic, Schwinn's doing that, correct?
The varsity.
Okay.
Coach will be running that.
Play defense at Wittenberg, Upper Arlington, he's pretty good. I don't like playing against him. Code of conduct. So I'm not going to read through these, but these are very important. I'm sure everyone is going to go home and get on our website and read these as soon as you get home, because you also value how important they are to us. But I do have the TLDR on it, right? So players play, coaches coach, parents watch, cheer, encourage. Please remember that your attitude is contagious, right? If you're super disappointed that your son or daughter is on a B team and not on an A team, I get it, but the more you say how it's bleep and bleep and bleep, they're just going to take all that and they're going to go take it to school and say that all to all their friends, and it's not a good situation. And nobody's really growing or learning from that, right? Like, there are disappointing situations, right? We mentioned that during our mission. We want to take that and use that in an encouraging way, channel that disappointment into encouraging things and help motivate to work hard and maybe play a different role on that team, right? And I've seen it now for a few years, right? Especially at the 7th grade level. This is just anecdotal what I've observed. The 7th grade level, it seems like a lot of kids, just came off the select team in 6th grade, and now they're on a B team in 7th grade, and it's like, wait, what? Like,
Well,
but I know what I'm doing.
there were problems last year that were not just about the 6th grade and into the 7th grade level. To be honest about that.
What do you mean?
So we didn't have coaches last year.
Yes, that was a huge problem.
Right, so that was specifically a very big problem with the 7th graders with unevenly matched B teams and not proper coaching.
Yes. Yes, we experienced that last year. And so this is a good time to add this too. So if we don't have enough, so we've said, you know, if we have enough players for 2 B teams, we want to have 2 B teams. If we don't have enough coaches for 2 B teams, we won't have 2 B teams, right? Lessons learned, right? If there's 30 kids on the team and we can only have 1 B team because we only have coaches for 1 team, that's what we'll do, right? It was not an ideal situation last year. So, lesson learned, and do the best we can, right? But yeah, it is super important that it's a good opportunity to make the best of any situation.
I just got
Yes,
to
Mark.
I've seen it on Mark level, I help out coaching every once in a while, and I've seen some kids that were disappointed not being on an A team come down and thrive on a B team. And then I've seen them the next year, the next summer, contribute a whole lot more to the team that they went on. So these guys do a really good job of putting our children in the best possible position to be successful.
There's success stories all day. So thank you, Mark. For example, we had a freshman on varsity last year, starting defenseman as a freshman, was our best defenseman, in my opinion, and he was on a B team in 7th grade. So I don't want to beat a dead horse, but yes. Important. Officials are humans. The bad ones are humans too. We're going to have bad officials. It's just inevitable, right? We want those bad officials to keep on officiating so they can get more experience and become not as bad officials. Maybe even good officials someday, right? God be nice to the officials. They are human. So Chris and I were at a meeting with a lot of Northeast Ohio programs. Head of officials pointed out that this year they have a point of emphasis that the officials have been encouraged to eject unruly coaches and fans and spectators who are behaving unruly. So I don't anticipate this is a problem we will have in our program, but if it is, as a board, we will respond appropriately and have whatever tough conversations need to be had. So I want to play this short video too. How are we doing on time?
7:45.
All right, cool. We're in the home stretch, I promise. I do need to switch over. This might not come through in the live stream too well, but we need to go to this computer for the audio.
One of my mentors in this area was a man named Bruce Brown, and him and his group, Proactive Coaching, did exit interviews with athletes for many years. And there's also research out of Australia on the ride home after games. And what it basically says is that children, when they're asked what is your worst memory in youth sports, say the ride home. Because they're physically and they're emotionally exhausted, yeah, we got them locked in a car, and we're going to make this a teachable moment. What kids tell us over and over and over is that maybe this is the least teachable moment. So what I always advise is this. Again, if your kids bring up and they want to talk about the game, by all means have the conversation. But if they are not the ones bringing it up and driving the conversation, don't bring it up, because what you do is you make the ride home something to be avoided, and it starts to take the joy out of playing sports.
So, friendly reminder. If there are issues or disagreements or even just questions, right? Like, we like to encourage the players to follow the proper chain of command, right? Especially at 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th grade levels, we love the athlete to be comfortable going to their coach first and just asking their coach the question, getting clarifying information, whatever it may be. Of course, the next step from that is the athlete and the parent together can talk to the coach Then the next step is to get the boys and girls director involved, and then the broader board. Communication. So this is when we get into what Mr. Valancourt was mentioning earlier, where we might be notified late in the day that practice times changed, the field location changed. So we will use the SI Play. It used to be called League Athletics. It's been rebranded as SI Play. We'll use that system, that app, and it powers our website as well. We'll use that for everything. So if you have that app installed, it's always up to date. You can configure what notifications you want, or whether it text messages you, or emails you, or whatever. And that's how we manage all our communication, is through that platform. That's what I just said. We will have team managers for each team that'll be trained on how to configure the app. It's pretty simple to go in and figure things out once they get a hang of it. We'll talk about more of that in the volunteer slide. And again, you can have full control over how you get the communication. And it does sync to your calendar, which is super nice. So please, feel free to get involved. Team managers, there is training included. It's not overwhelming. It's pretty simple. And we need that for every team, really. And then assistant coaches, it's always great. You don't need to know the game at all. You really don't. A lot of people didn't have lacrosse growing up in their areas, or just weren't exposed to it, or interested in it at the time. That's okay. It's a super fun sport. You can get the hang of it. We will pay for training. We'd love everyone to go out and get U.S. lacrosse training, and we will pay for that as a board. We used to require it for everyone. I mean, it's strongly encouraged. It's not required, though. We know time commitment is challenging. But it's a great way to get involved, spend time with your kids, meet their friends, and learn a new sport. It's a lot of fun. And then for games, timekeepers and scoring table people for each game. A head coach might come and tap you on the shoulder before a game and ask for some help. So just a heads up.
Hey, Rich.
Yes.
On the slide before, that SI Play app, I think most people have used it, but it got renamed as Sports Sign Up app.
Oh.
It's not, if you search SI Play, it's the same app, but it's now called Sports Sign Up app. The basketball Kiwanis uses it.
Okay.
So I think everybody's used it if they've played any of the sports around Hudson, but for those that haven't, if you search SI Play, comes up as Sports Sign Up app. So.
Cool, thank you.
And sometimes when the teams come out, you may have to delete the app and reinstall it.
Yeah.
That usually then populates you with the new
Log
team.
out, log back in, searches for your email
Yeah.
address and whatever teams you're assigned.
It's a cool feature they have.
It is. So before emailing Rochelle about it.
Yeah, I forgot about that. So if your team isn't coming up and you're like, what the heck? Sign out, sign back in. What's that?
We didn't change the dates for access.
Those dates are wrong.
Yeah.
Sorry, our bad. But Lax Fest volunteers, we have a really good committee in place for Lax Fest, headed up by Ward Judson. He did an awesome job last year, especially amid all the field challenges. Of course, we did not have field access last year, so we had a sort of mini Lax Fest with just using turf. That still turned out better than not having anything. But we're looking forward to this again this year. It's been rained out 2 of the last 3 years, so I think we've got good vibes to have a dry spring this year. And the kids love it. So I really hope for their sake we have a dry weather. But we do. We need volunteers to help set up, take down, help with parking and refereeing. Not being a referee, but helping, provide the communication to the referees, the kits. So the committee's got it all down to a science, but sometimes they just need some extra hands to help. So please, we need your help. Don't be afraid. Get involved. It's wonderful. Do it for the kids. Here's the contact information on who you can reach out to for the different types of volunteer positions available. Sponsorship, that's right. Heidi, do you want to talk about this?
Sure, we did this last year, we put this in place, so we're definitely not going out soliciting, door to door for this, but if anyone, in particular, personally or by your company would like to be a sponsor of HYLAX, and more specifically to Lax Fest, we've created kind of the different levels of sponsorship, definitely based off of best practices that we've looked at and analyzed from other tournaments and other teams that have done this. So last year we did have an anonymous donor for our t-shirts, and we did have several donors for that sponsored fields. And with that, we're keeping it at the same level. So the fields will get signage at sponsoring each of the fields at Lax Fest, and the banner will continue to stay up on our website and all of that. So definitely feel free to reach to me or Rochelle or Richie or any of us on the board if you're interested in becoming a sponsor. We do have just one official Lax Fest t-shirt sponsor, and then it goes down from there. So just let us know. All are welcome. Happy to work with you at any level.
Last slide. Any questions?
So what are the plans for coaches this year?
So, Chris, you want to talk about it? We're talking about boys, correct?
Yes.
Right now, there's half a dozen boys coaches right here. Dan's in the blue. You didn't see Dan. Mark Colombo's worked with us. Dave right next to you has worked with us. Kevin Davenport right in front of you. Owen and Tim. Clever. Those are all prior boys coaches, are all involved again this year. Garrett Riley, who was here, had to leave, and Brian, right? Still have some interest. Right now, I can tell you, my teams is taken care of. One of the B teams is already taken care of. There is enough dads, coaches around the other B team if it's needed.
So I'm going to add to that. We have two, actually I think one of them is a volunteer, but two non-parent coaches coming back that were with us last year, Will and Kyle. Yeah. And we have an ad out, or we're in the process of putting an ad out to see more, to see if we can get any more. It's tough in Northeast Ohio finding good qualified coaches, but we're always on the look, right? And certainly, if you guys know any neighbors that are Hudson alum or even new to Hudson, right? Like, I moved here. I was new to Hudson. I didn't grow up in Hudson, but just played lacrosse, loved lacrosse, and volunteered to coach with HYLAX a few years ago, right? Like any of those type of people, please encourage them to reach out to us. We can't wait to pay qualified coaches, right? It's just finding them that's the challenge. But as Chris said, we do have a lot of coaches in place already on our coaches roster. Now it comes down to going through the evaluation process, the registration process, identifying what teams we have, and plugging those people in the right places.
So if you end up in a situation like we did last year, where we didn't have B team coaches, will you cut the B team and give us our money back, or how's that?
I would say we will have B team covered. I already have Kyle Horn, who's one of them. So there's 3 or 4 dads that have enough experience that can pick up the other B teams. So I think the 7 B teams are going to be fine.
We don't anticipate. I'm a software developer, so I will.
Yeah, and I get that. It's just that it ended up to be such a bad taste in so many kids' mouths last year for 7th grade. And I just, I don't want to say this the wrong way. I don't want to give you my money if it's going to end up the same way. I can't do it again.
Actually, you would say you'd give her money back if she has.
Yeah, 100%. Like.
Yeah. So I don't mind if my kid plays a B team. That's not the issue. The issue was that it was a disaster.
Yeah, if anyone's not happy with the program, I think we're willing to write a check at any point and say, sorry, we didn't do better.
I'd like to say, my son was on the B team last year as an 8th grader. It was his 2nd year playing. He was one of 3 8th graders on the B team, and he had a fabulous year. Fabulous. So he loved his coach, he loved the volunteers, he loved everything about it, and he was, maybe going in, because it was his 2nd year, he didn't know any other 7th graders. He bonded with the 2 other 8th graders, and he loved all the 7th graders on the team. He had a fabulous, fabulous season, and he learned a
And just on the girls' side, I know we do have a lot of coaches as well. We're also holding a parent-coach clinic where we will be having a former Maryland, player who is from the Northeast area come in and actually provide coaching because these are mostly dads who have volunteered to coach. How you teach and coach girls lacrosse. Very different game, very different skills. So I'll be sending that out to all those who have volunteered to help coach, and we'll be doing it then. So if you are interested, again, just let me know, and I'll include you in that email.
Who's the girls' first and second grade coach? Is it
Mac.
It is great.
Yeah, Mac Muirhead, I'm sure is going to do it again.
And then I have Sean Morris is also, he has a first grade coach also.
I'm just struggling with, I want to register, but we don't know the exact date of the practices. It's hard to confirm. So that you return to this with us.
Yeah.
You
So
have
I
some
would love to
time.
register now, but just, closer to this.
Yeah.
Development of the schedule.
Right. Once we'll definitely buy, especially for the 1-2 girls.
Yes.
You have more time, and we'll have, obviously we have to get the practice schedule. Most likely one will be on a weekday and one will be on a weekend, Sunday. So
The nice thing about weekends is we have much easier access to turf fields on the weekends. During the week, it's very difficult for us to get any access to turf.
I love all the weekend days, so that's great. So busy.
and also in games, I just want to, and I know, Dan, you can speak to the boys' schedule. For the girls, we've tried to at least schedule majority of the games on the weekends. So that's why I talked about having it your priority, because there are going to be a lot of tournaments that are, say, on a Saturday. We may have the following, that next day, that Sunday, have a game with somebody else. So trying to alleviate, or at least the burden of traveling on a weekday, it's very hard trying to get get somewhere by 5:30 down in Wadsworth. Trust me, I'm the one who scheduled that last year, so I apologize. But just those midweek games are tough. So there are some. I'm not going to say it's 100% of just weekend games, but have tried to schedule the majority of every play on the weekends.
Yeah, for the boys, 1-2, you'll have 4 non-intro league games, home and away with Chagrin and Hoover. 3-4, everything is on Saturday and Sunday at this point. The majority of it is Saturday and Sunday. There are probably multiple games both days.
The season is 6 weeks.
Yeah. 5-6, it's mostly Saturday and Sunday, a couple during the week. 5-6 will go to Pittsburgh this year. What am I thinking about 5-6? 7-8 is mostly weekends again, some weekdays. 7-8 has the Junior Crusaders from Cincinnati coming here, and either North Arlington or Lake Cathedral from Erie coming here, and they'll probably go to Meadville, which is about an hour and 30 minutes in Pennsylvania. So we've tried to reach out and play some other programs that are of equivalent size and equivalent quality that may be a little bit further away to begin to get a home and away situation. Pine Richland and Mars, we went there last year as a 7-8 program. They're coming here this year as a 7-8 program. So you'll see some new teams between the schedule and between Cranbrook. You'll see nobody.
And just I forgot to say, the girls also, for the 5-6 girls, we are traveling down to Columbus in April, early April. The 5-6 will, and then we also have Pine Ridgeway coming to us. So again, kind of taking that, making, kind of spreading out, giving the girls better, more competition in different teams, because we do kind of, since we do go to Piscataway and North Coast and all of that, we do see the same teams again and again. So trying to get different teams to play against. 3-4 girls, I think there may be 1 or 2 games outside of the tournaments. We're actually going to do a Hawk and Play Day, which I need to add to that schedule. But majority, I'd say 95% of the games will be played at the tournaments.
Yes.
On behalf of all of us parents, we thank you for volunteering in this amazing privilege.
Thank you, Tim.
You guys are awesome.
I'm going to shut the live stream down, and we'll do the giveaway.
I know you're all excited to see who wins the premium parking spot.